So welcome to the second webinar for this second open call. My name is Veronica Gomshor, and I'm the project manager on the side of Funding Box, who is managing the open calls for the dAIEDGE consortium. Today's webinar is going to be quite similar to the first one, but we will focus more on kind of like solving your doubts. And I'm joined here by Miguel de Prado, who is one of the partners of the dAIEDGE consortium. And today, Anna is actually without sound today, unfortunately, so she can't give you the welcome, but Anna Martins is here from Funding Box with me as well. She will be looking after you in the chat. If you have any questions during this webinar, you can maybe wait towards the end to ask them, or maybe just have them somewhere ready and then see. Maybe we will answer it already, so you won't need to post it in the chat. But I will be, but firstly, Miguel will introduce the whole project to give you kind of like a background of the different use cases that are being studied in the project. I will give you more details about the eligibility and the scope, because we've had many questions about that. Also, afterwards, I will give voice back to Miguel to explain a little bit more detail about when you read a challenge, what to focus on, and all the different details. And then we will have like a general on how to apply and some final tips. And towards the end, if you have more questions, I will read them out and we'll try to answer them live for you. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the debating to Miguel. Do you want to share or?
Yeah, I will share. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll stop.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So my name is Miguel de Prado. I come from Versus, which is a partner of this project. So the dAIEDGE project stands for Distributed Artificial Intelligence at the Edge. We are a network of excellence that try to bring AI at the edge in a distributed, trustworthy, efficient, and scalable manner. We are 36 partners organized across research institutes, universities, industrial partners, and associations as well. And we are located in 15 different countries across Europe. We have a budget of 14 million. We are also part of the European AI Lighthouse. You can think of a lighthouse as a reference for a specific domain. We are the reference for AI at the edge. As you can see here, there is also the projects that are reference for other topics like robotics, Robin, or human AI, or ELSA for security and safety. So the idea here is basically that all of us combine our knowledge and strength to push towards common goals for the European Union, for AI at the European level. We have a lot of communication dissemination across the different European projects so that we can share together progress towards common goals. We have several objectives within our dAIEDGE project. First of all, we have scientific progress. We try to push the boundaries of the foundational research. We try new paradigms, algorithm architectures, but also try to merge software and hardware so that we have co-design and optimization at the same time. We also try to experiment with hybrid and distributed solutions so that we can combine, for instance, different technologies, hardware technologies, FPGAs with GPUs, CPUs, RISC-V, and so on and so forth. All the things that we do, we try to push it to the community. So growing the community is one of the main goals in this project. We have different ways to do that. We have a lot of networking events where there is multidisciplinary people that try to put their own ideas on the table, so see we can combine them in different ways. We also have a scientific exchange program where some researchers can go to other institutions, do some research, and then go back to their own labs with different ideas that they may pursue further. And all that we do here as well is used for to build the strategic research agenda for the European Commission. The idea is that we can give a little bit of the understanding, expertise, and guidance on what's the roadmap for the next future or the next ideas or the future of artificial intelligence at the edge in this case. And maybe the European Commission can gather these ideas and propose new projects in the future in that direction. We try to lead by demonstration. We have a few pilots where we try to include some of the research that we do within the project. I'll explain a little bit more in detail these pilots, and also a virtual innovation infrastructure environment. So here the idea is that we're trying to put in place some experiment federation or benchmark federation. We're building a reference node for this, where we try to include some of our tools, platforms, and so on, so that some people could experiment with it. But the main idea is that each of you could then replicate this reference node and create a node on your own infrastructure, so that we could all, in theory, share some of this infrastructure. For example, you may have a different hardware platform that maybe other people don't have. And by joining the effort here, we could each of us test our own experiments or models on different hardware through this federation. We always have an eye in the industrial ecosystem. Although we focus mostly on research, we always try to push this research towards applied applications. This open call that happens now, which is the open call, is mostly research use cases. But the third one, which is the one that will happen in 6 months or so, that will be dealing with mostly industrial use cases. Also, we have a virtual incubator as a way to disseminate ideas on how to adopt AI for SMEs and help these SMEs to maybe ramp up their own experiments and then use artificial intelligence within their own products. These are the challenges. So just to give you a little bit of a context on why we do this project, this is the challenges that we identified before the project and that we try to address within the project. So we see a little bit of complexity in using AI, although these days we have ChatGPT and all the LLMs, which seem to be easy to use for just general purpose tasks. When it comes to a specific domain, AI or specific at the edge, it's still quite cumbersome to collect data, train models, deploy them, and so on and so forth. So we try to address this sort of pipeline in a methodology, from the methodology perspective, but also from the hardware and infrastructure perspective, so that we can provide the guidelines, but also the workflows for people to adopt AI for their own use cases. We always have a little bit of an eye on security, privacy, fairness, reliability, and as well as the interoperability with the broader software and hardware ecosystem. These are the 3 pilots where we try to push our tests and experiments. First one, we have the drone-assisted warehouse security and monitoring and inspection. The idea here is to, for instance, have a drone that can navigate the environment and detect if there is maybe any threat in security, or that if any like a system box that's fallen to the floor in terms of security, because maybe there's an AMR that comes this way and would block the pass, for instance. So that enables, other than just monitoring and security, it enables also human-robot collaboration, because the information that's being provided by an AMR or a drone can be then used by a worker to do a certain task, for instance. We also have edge, AI on the edge for satellite image pre-processing, or just processing in general. Satellite will be one of the main use cases for the edge in the future. It's quite powerful. So other than that, we can do Earth observation to detect fires and many other things, or see ice in the sea, or intelligence, or sort of how the deforestation happens. So there's a quite of application that will happen from the satellite itself. As you can imagine, sending information from the satellite to the Earth is quite expensive. So the idea is to do as much as possible processing at the edge, and then only send the results whenever it's needed. It happens that most of the time of the observation, we just see clouds. So for instance, those images don't need to be sent down to the Earth. And sometimes also happens that the actual image acquisition is quite expensive. So one of the ideas that we're pushing in these experiments is to directly process image that is not completely formed. Then that solves a little bit of the complexity of forming the image on the sensor side of things, and then just doing AI directly on pre-processed images. We also have the smart city. As you can imagine, smart city has a lot of different applications where we can deploy artificial intelligence. We are mostly focusing in this case on crossroads, where we have maybe cars or motorbikes that come, and also the pedestrians that need to cross the road. Here, there is a little bit of analysis of what people could do, or also try to basically put the information about cameras that are seeing how humans or pedestrians can come into the road and send that directly to some overlaid headsets that maybe the motorbikes can have, or overlays on the cars themselves. There's a little bit also one application we're testing on gun detection for security in cities, and there's a few others that also are part of this use case. We are also very busy in a way with events. We have organized quite a few events. Some of them more technical, some of them more networking, some of them more demonstration. These are some of those that we just happened during the last year, but there will be more workshops coming up. So if you would like to also join us in those workshops, please sign up to the newsletter, because some of those are presented or just informal through the newsletter, and then you can come in and also share your ideas with us. So that will be my last slide, and I pass over to the actual open call. Just to give you an overview of the open call, we have several open calls. The first one was about exchanging researchers in Europe, so that, as we said before, we can exchange ideas from lab to lab and then try to collaborate on those ideas. There were 10 teams selected on that will start pretty soon. And the second one, which is the one that we're here for, is basically collaborative projects where we propose some challenges, and now you will need to apply for those challenges and try to solve them. And that's what we will discuss in the next slides. So Veronica will take over, and then we'll explain you more in detail. Veronica.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm going to share again. Sure. Yeah. Okay, so now on to the details of the second open call. And as Miguel said, the projects can be considered collaborative because the consortium proposes the challenge and gives you the technical background and support, and you need to be creative in trying to solve those challenges. So the open call is already in week, I believe, 7. It opened on the 10th of January and it will close on the 13th of March. At 3 p.m. It's the Thursday. Remember that the deadline is very sharp and coming soon, and we will not be able to accept any I was about to press the button and so on. So just be on time. And in terms of what you can expect afterwards, we do the first eligibility check just to see if you checked all of the different boxes that are necessary and so on. So that's a quick check, and we'll do it in March. We usually do it in like only 2 days, but the dAIEDGE consortium has an in-person meeting, so it might take about a week or so for the first check. Then the consortium will do in-out of scope checks. So I will give you a little bit more details about it as I go on. And you can expect that we will have an announcement soon, a few more details in the guide for applicants about the in and out of scope. We were just kind of fine-tuning that recently. So that can take a couple of weeks, depending on how many applications we get. And then they will go to the expert evaluation, which will be more in-depth, and that can take another few weeks. So you can expect to hear back from us, I'd say between May or even in June, but probably closer to May. The questions we have received: can the dates be extended? So I know with many projects you expect that the dates will be kind of extended, maybe 2 weeks or so, but don't expect that in this case. The open call will close sharply. We will not be extending it. And also, we cannot accept any additional documents by email because it has to be done through the funding box application form. So you just need to figure out how to include all the information that you want in this small space that every section has. So what we offer is up to 60% in funding for a program that is around 7 months. And the first month, as you can see here, will be spent planning the next 6 months of implementation. And we have maximum budget of 600,000. So we will be choosing around 10 projects. The total required grant must be specified during the application phase. So whatever you put in the application form is going to be then the final amount that you will be getting. So always try to get to close to the maximum amount. And also, we're not providing only financial support. You will also be looked after very well by our technical mentors, who will be guiding you in finding the best approach to address the challenge that you have selected. A little bit more on the eligibility. So the first thing is that you have to focus on one of the industrial challenges that have been identified. You will have an option to use the dAIEDGE virtual lab. It's optional, so it's not a condition in this case because it wasn't released at the time, but I think it's pending just any day now. So it could happen so that the moment you start planning the details with your mentors, that you will be able to use some of those resources. And please also pay attention to the TRL that we are looking for. So starting somewhere at the level of 2 or 3 to achieve level 4 to 5. So you need to really search the web clearly to understand what the TRL means and so on, and make sure that you fit in within those brackets. And also we are looking for research and development. So research that is only theoretical. It was within the first, let's say, stream of open calls, but this second open call is within the industrial stream. So we are looking closer to applications that are already solving these problems with some technical solutions, and not like heavy research that is purely theoretical. And you can apply as a consortium of 2. The types of entities, it could be a research or technology organization, academia, or an SME. So in this case, we don't have a natural person or large companies. And also, if you decide to apply as a consortium, just make sure that it makes sense. You have to show some time somewhere in the application why you are pairing with this entity to show that you're going to strengthen the proposal. I won't repeat there. So the maximum is up to 60,000, and you will take up to 7 months. So it can take you a little bit less than that, but we will have a sharp deadline. The project will be ending next year, so we'll be trying to avoid any extensions on behalf of the beneficiaries. And one of the conditions here to focus is that you can submit up to 3 different applications, and each has to be to a different challenge. It is your responsibility. If you're from a big organization, big university, there must be some internal process, or maybe a special section within your university where you can align and maybe check if somebody else is applying to this open call, to make sure that you are within the eligibility. Because if you happen to be the 4th one applying, then we will not be able to even consider this application. And of course, the dAIEDGE consortium is quite big. There's over 30 partners. So if you have any linkage to one of the partners, to some kind of a spin-off of the university that is partner of the dAIEDGE, then you will not be considered eligible. So just make sure that you check the list as well. Some of the questions that we received, I'm sorry, this looks different when sharing online. I'm sorry for the text doubling here. So if one partner is from a list of the eligible countries, but let's say another one is from the USA, or it's a large company, can they apply? And it's like, oh, we don't want the funding, we just want to be the partners. Well, that's not possible because the beneficiaries will also receive the support of the dAIEDGE consortium and access to some of the resources. So even without the financial support, they would still be receiving support, and they both have to be eligible. You cannot send us your description of your project and tell us, please, can you tell me what TRL level I am? That would be unfair and too much work for us, to be honest. So you have to figure that out yourself and just pay attention to it, because we will be checking that. But we have provided links to the documents. I think in the FAQs, there's a link to how to determine the TRL level. And then if you are pre-selected, if you're one of the superstars and you get all of your projects that you submitted shortlisted, then the one that will be selected will be not the one that you want the best, but the highest scoring. This is just to make sure that it's still a fair process. And if you submit more than 3 applications, the one that will be eliminated is the oldest one, because this is the idea that, let's say, you submit a project and then you have a better idea. So the new one that you suggest is going to be the one that you want us to consider, right? Not the older one. This is how it usually works. And this is the rule that we will be applying here. We had a question about the gender equality plan. So as you may know, when you're a research organization or university, when you apply to any Horizon or European Commission funding, you need to have a gender equality plan, and it has to be a public document. So you need to find a way to publish it on your website, and that's why in our application form, you can only insert a link. You cannot upload it as a PDF or a document that you have for internal use. It should be a public document. Are there any additional points for applying as a consortium? No, at this stage not. But it should be justified why it is an advantage. And also you will need to divide the budget between yourselves, and the task distribution. Everything just has to make sense. We also had a question about the definition of academia, if, let's say, a secondary vocational school could apply. And according to the Horizon rules, it really is about tertiary education. So third level education, private or public higher education institutions. And do we provide help finding a consortium partner? We don't. Because it's not a condition. So this is an option that you have to have a partner, and it's not a condition. So we don't do the matchmaking. If you find a partner, some great entity that you would love to work with, then great. And if you don't, and you're able to implement it by yourself, then that's also good too. There won't be any discrimination against single applications or consortium. How does the funding have to be distributed between the partners? It doesn't have to be 50-50. It has to just make sense and be relevant to the involvement or the workload. So if you have somebody who is just going to be, let's say, the end user, and they will provide some kind of platform for you to test maybe the early applications, then their involvement will be minimal, but so that has to be reflected in the budget. Another question is, when does the support program start? Does it start immediately after you're selected, or can you postpone it because it doesn't suit you? So this stays to be clarified by the coordinator who is going to be signing the subgrant agreements. But it should start probably shortly after signing the SGA. So as I explained in the first slide, it's going to be somewhere a bit around June that we will be starting. And you say, it's the start of the summer. Can we start in September or something? You will have to agree that with your mentor. You will be assigned also the coordinator, so there's still time to decide that, but all the projects will have to finish by that time, because the dAIEDGE project will finish soon after that, and we need some time for reporting and so on. So going back to the idea of the scope, so we're going to be doing an in and out of scope screening to make sure that, before we pass on the proposals to the external evaluators, that everything kind of aligns within what we're looking for. So you will need to make sure that you answer the challenge that you have selected. And also it has to be focused on research and development. So it has to have some kind of technical application or development, and not purely theoretical research. And the TRL, as we said, between 2 and 3 to achieve 4 to 5. And what is the expected success rate? As with many European projects, where the success rate is about between 4 and 8%, here we can give you a range between 2 and 10%, depending on the call is quite popular, to be honest with you. But please make sure that you submit your applications, because there are many applications in draft, so it's difficult to judge how many will finally press the apply button. As I said, we have about 20 challenges, so we have lots of different topics to choose from. And in each topic, there was 21. There was a question about another one, but that was eliminated. So that was just kind of like pre-published list, but there are 20 challenges. And each challenge contains quite a lot of information for you to focus on. So you have kind of like a short description, also what is expected deliverable. There's some references for you to click on. There's some even diagrams or images for you to know technical specifications, the requisites, even some data sets that you can use, and also the expected results. So you have quite a lot of information to be able to work out if this suits the idea that you have. And in terms of scope, we have received this question. So can you propose a different challenge? No, I don't. I've been involved in open calls where there was like an other category, but at this time there's 20 challenges, which is quite a lot. So you need to fit in within one of the challenges. And can we advise which challenge fits your best? No, we cannot, because this is going to be the phase of the evaluation already. So we would be kind of like shooting ourselves in the foot if we advise everybody on their challenge. So you need to do that due diligence. Also about more details of the challenge, can we provide contact details of which partner of the dAIEDGE actually provided this challenge? We decided not to provide that information to ensure fairness to applicants. You can still send an email to dAIEDGE help, but we will not be sharing this information. And also about any articles that are mentioned in the challenge descriptions, they are available directly on their open access, so in their Google Scholar or something like that. And they are available on the dAIEDGE website under the publication, so you can access those there as well. And I think it's time for me to pass the voice to Miguel again. Miguel, are you there to present the challenge?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Here we go. So here we have the list of different challenges. As Veronica said, we have 20. I will just present one or two to see a little bit how they look like. So one thing that's important to say is that every challenge is different. there will be a mentor that guiding this challenge. That will be a different person from the consortium. So most of the questions that you may have will be probably solved during the first month of the challenge, of the actual open call or support program, where you have to define basically all the milestones and final deliverables that you will meet at the end of the project. So during the application, the best thing that you can do, and we'll see some examples, is to read this in a general way. You probably have questions that you can ask them through the help desk. But just to let you know that this is a general overview of what we want the challenge to be around, but most of the details will be organized or will be discussed during the first month. And for that, you need to talk directly with the mentor that you will be assigned to, okay? So here we, for example, we have a challenge for mobile concealed weapon detection, where you have a little bit of introduction and what is expected. Most of the deliverables go or need to have a report where you explain a little bit what you did during the 6 months, as well as software. Most of them require that you actually developed an AI application, or you train a model, or you deploy on a hardware platform. So there's some sort of software that needs to be committed probably to GitHub or GitLab. And then in some cases as well, like data set, if you use or you collected some data, or you use some data from somewhere, basically provide the data or at least the link to the data. If you have some data sets that are private to you, that's something that you can discuss again with a mentor, because probably you will not share the private data you have in this case, but maybe you can provide a test set to the mentor so that she or he can test the developed model on that data set, for instance. You usually have some references where you can check some papers that were addressing this challenge specifically. And then also here you have usually a diagram of specific specifications. In this case, you have a little bit of what's the actual application, wants to detect handguns, and a little bit of the requisites that you have here. Also, usually you have some expected results that you need to meet as a general term. Again, this is a bit flexible. If you don't meet the accuracy, doesn't mean that you will fail the challenge, but you need to provide the reasons why this didn't happen, or maybe some optimizations in other ways, so like some trade-offs. Maybe you didn't get to 85% accuracy, but you had like a super tiny model that can be deployed on a microcontroller, for instance. Just to review maybe a different challenge, here we have one for continual learning on edge-based robotics. Here, basically, there is again like some expected deliverables in terms of implementation, tells you a little bit sort of the algorithms that should be tested, then some setting, which is a continual learning setting, and some methods that are preferable in this way, which is using JAX, for instance. The evaluation needs to provide some benchmarks, some data sets and models, and then also deployment of certain embedded devices. There is also references and some sort of sample implementations where you can start working on during the first month, and then basically you can base your final implementation on these ones here. Some reference on data set as well, and some specifications about how the inputs and outputs should be organized, and then also a diagram. I've been asked, for instance, in this third challenge about the different platforms. In this case, we specify the platforms that should be used. In theory, it should be something similar to this. So when we said like it should be an embedded device in the range of a Raspberry Pi NVIDIA Jetson, it doesn't need to be that specific one, but in the same range. For example, I was asked that if we can use a Raspberry Pi for mid-high-end embedded device, but then a Raspberry Pi Zero as a microcontroller unit. That's something that should be discussed with the mentor. A Raspberry Pi Zero is not a microcontroller. We have Raspberry Pi Micro or Pico. That's the actual microcontroller that uses Raspberry Pi. So the main idea is that to have a little of a trade-off between different models deployed on different platforms, so you can have a family of models that is more optimized for different hardware devices. The bigger models could be deployed in the Raspberry Pi, while smaller models could be deployed in microcontroller units. If you don't have a platform, you can buy it. If it is difficult to buy it, then maybe you can propose a different platform that sort of gives this idea of trade-off between latency, memory usage, and energy efficiency or energy consumption. There is more challenges here as well. You have like a little bit of a diagram. So I think the main point here is not to focus specifically on what's proposed, but to capture the idea of what this challenge wants to do and what is your idea to propose ways to address this challenge. And then the details specifically will be discussed during the first month of the project. So that's a little bit, I think, the message I wanted to convey here. So I think I will stop here. Then if you have questions, so we can address them during the Q&A. Veronica?
Yes, I think we have questions in the chat and in the Q&A, but we'll figure it out. It's okay. Okay, so I've been reading the questions, but I'm going to control myself and wait until the end. Right, so in terms of how to apply to the open call, you know this website already, and there is a read first section where the guide for applicants should be your Bible. So read it very carefully. And I think we're going to have an update. We've been working on the legal basis of the update. So there might be a little update in the guide for applicants, but you will be notified if we not change hugely everything, but maybe if something is edited when necessary. In terms of the evaluation, so the evaluation will have 4 main steps. So after you submit it, we will do the first check, which, as I said, is the declaration of honor, just submitting around the correct time, being from an eligible country, and so on. So this will take a few days, and then the in and out of scope screening will be based on this section of the guide for applicants. So it explains all of the different rules that we may screen during this phase. So just please pay attention to that. And during the independent evaluation, it will be focused on these 3 sections. So these are where you have the most text in your application. And the support program will start sometime in June and is divided into 2 phases. What I wanted to bring your attention to is that even though it says here up to 9,000 euros and then 51,000, a lot of the times we need to apply retention of up to 15% of the overall grant. That's because the dAIEDGE project will receive its final payment from the European Commission after everything is finished. And that also includes anybody who signs the sub-grant agreement with the dAIEDGE consortium. So you just have to make sure that, most of it will be paid also after the 7th month. So you just need to keep that in mind. If you are a small SME, you need to have the cash flow to be able to implement this second stage, which will take 6 months, and you will only get paid majority of your grant after you have submitted the final report. So the support program will start very soon after the signature of subgrant agreement, which will probably be around June. Can the implementation be postponed? It's yes and no answer, I would say. Each project will follow an individual plan, but the milestone will fall around the same time. So you will still have, a certain amount of months, maybe for a midterm, some kind of review, and then the final one. So what is the lump sum model of funding? So it's not based on any reimbursement of your expenses. So we will not be asking you how much you spent on personnel or how much you spent on paying for some kind of equipment, but you will be examined on the results. Did you deliver the KPIs that you promised in your initial plan? And this will be evaluated during a milestone review. So this support program only has 2 milestone reviews. And the first one will be just delivering the plan within the deadline, so after the 1 month. And you will be judged on the quality of the deliverable, the technical indicators, and also if you did it within the timeline. And the minimum average score for these three has to be 7 points to be approved for the payment. But we're going to be, monitoring you closely. You will have support of the mentors. So we hope that if you have any issues with your projects or during the implementation, you will be in close communication with your mentors, and things happen, and you can adjust deliverables, or just talk to your mentors and see what can be done to remedy any problems and make sure that everybody is able to deliver whatever they promised with the help of the consortium. So how to apply? When you press the apply button, apply now, you will see an application form that looks more or less like this. Before you fill it out, everything will be marked in red. As you can see, most of the sections are compulsory here. There's only one that is optional, but we thank you for filling that out. It helps us to know where you're all coming from. So after you open each section, just when you fill it out, press save and continue. And when everything is filled out, it will be grayed out like this. And once you press submit now, you should get an email to your inbox and also a timestamp when you submitted it. You can still edit your application, and you can add contributors to the application form as well. And final notes is to ask yourself if this open call fits your project, as well as how you can fit into the open call. So it has to be, a win-win situation. Remember that your proposal will be evaluated by humans and not AI. We don't use AI to screen the proposals. So write a winning proposal with that in mind, that it's going to be an expert, an actual person reading it, and submit your proposal ahead of time. Don't wait until the last minute. It's, hopefully there won't be any crashes, but if everybody waits until the last moment, you're just, tempting the fate. So please don't wait until the last minute. And if so happens that you are unlucky, that we're only able to choose up to 10 projects. So if you're not funded this time, there will be another opportunity that around the summertime. So around August, we will open it. So you'll have, I think, all of September as well, and close in October, this open call. It will be quite similar to this one, also with industrial challenges, maybe slightly different, but it will be very similar to whatever I have presented here. And this will be your last chance, because the project will end next year. And that's all for me now. And I'm going to start reading the questions, I think. So, okay. Let's see the chat. Okay. Yeah, so I already answered the first question. There was a challenge originally. We had 21 about patient monitoring, but that was eliminated just a few days before we published, because the infrastructure for it was not ready. So that was eliminated. But maybe it will be ready for the third open call, right, Miguel? Could be.
Might be a case.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know what this question means. May I ask if new infrastructures can join the project? If so, what is the approach? If you mean joining the dAIEDGE project as general, I don't think so. It's a closed list, right? We're not looking for more projects. So the only way to join the project is to apply to the open calls and be a subgrantee.
Maybe if this person refers to actual the virtual lab, then yes, there will be a possibility to add your infrastructure to the virtual lab. And don't think it's ready right now, but over the next year, probably there will be documentation provided for users to join this federation if you like to.
Okay. I have two questions regarding the open call. The first one is, you can elaborate about a bit regarding the innovation section. Is it supposed to provide technical details or focus on the bigger picture? The second section is about the use case. Should the proposal be focused on the pilots you have on your site, or it's better to expand the scope? So, Miguel, do you want to take this one?
Yes, so the innovation, as any proposal, I think you need to start from a general point of view and then focus on the specifics. So you can discuss a little bit why this, broadly speaking, is important, and the technical details where you plan to provide innovation. About the second question, basically, this is not about our pilots. The pilots are only for the project partners. What you need to describe here is basically the challenge you apply for. Okay, so no discussion about the pilots in this case.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. Regarding the open calls, are startups and SMEs eligible for funding? The funding rate is stated at 60%. Could you classify this as is not explicitly mentioned in the open call? I don't know. Yes, SMEs and startups are eligible in this open call according to the rules of how we define SMEs. And wait, because it escaped. And the level of rate of funding is not 60%. I don't know where you got that. The funding is up to 60,000, and there's no rate of 60% funding. This is 100%. It's a lump sum. Does the financial support cover only personal costs, or does it also include travel, software expenses? Yes. So the expenses or the budget is based on what is the standard for Horizon projects or European projects. So you can go into the Marie Curie, I think, guidelines on how to draft a budget in European projects. So yes, it covers other costs, and then there's only a limitation of how much subcontracting you should do, because you could, I think it's about maximum 15%, because you're supposed to be able to kind of implement it mostly by yourself. And the IP is managed in how the IP is managed in terms of ownership. IP is yours. So whatever you produce is yours, and whatever was already, right? Miguel, do you have any more details?
So there is also the possibility that some challenges require open sourcing. So you need to have a look at that, because if the open source is required, then it should be open sourced, basically.
Yes, I know it's a problem for SMEs, because they need to provide something that has market value, right? And for them, using open source is not the best solution. But that's the beauty of a project where you can have universities and other institutions where they don't have the same needs, I suppose, right?
Well, I mean, there's open source. I mean, people are paid to develop a challenge. So then, since there is a grant that is allowed people to develop something, it's required to be open source. Doesn't mean they cannot be used by themselves. It's just that these need to be open source to the project, and then they can reuse the results in the same way. It's just not, maybe in that case, the IP is not completely theirs, but they can still use it.
Yeah.
In that case, if you are worried about this, it's something that it can be discussed with the mentor during the first month if there is any issue, or even before, if you still have some queries about that. Feel free, please, to send us an email, and we can look into it more in detail.
Is gender equality plan mandatory for SMEs? No, it's for public institutions and also teaching and research institutions. Will there be proposals based on the challenge, or ranking will be given for our proposal? Okay, so I think it's described in the guide for applicants that there will be two different ranking lists. So there will be a ranking list per challenge, and there will be a general ranking list, which will be showed to the selection committee, and they can discuss both, because some of the challenges will be probably more popular than others, and it's more fair, I suppose, to have both kind of lists and not just judge everybody by the same. Well, it's the same standard, but just a different ranking list, I suppose, per challenge, and also a general one. Okay. Okay, about the gender equality plan. So to upload the link to the gender equality plan, it will only show up if you select that you are a university or RTO. If you select the SME, you will not have that option. What is the difference between expected deliverables and requisites? Do you know that, Miguel?
So requisite is something that you need to have already to start the project, and the expected deliverable is what you deliver as part of the development of the project. Maybe that's some requisites, you can think of them also as maybe not a starting point that you should have, as something that you need to do through the process. So you have some restrictions about using certain data, for instance. I don't think it's the case, but that restricts the process itself, but it's not a deliverable, which is the results of the process.
Yeah, so the contact email, yes, is dAIEDGE.helpfundingbox.com. And yeah, in terms of complaints, you have 3 days to send us any complaints after you have received the initial communication, and you will be looked after. It can take a couple of days for legal consultations and so on, but you will be definitely you will receive an answer. And then we have somebody from a big university, and we are worried about having another colleague applying to the same challenge without me knowing, since in that case, the earliest application will not be evaluated. It is possible for big institutions to moderate participations. It is impossible for big institutions to moderate participations, thus requiring the signature of the legal representatives would prevent this issue. Do you contemplate any participations or contemplate moderation approach? I think we have enough work as it is, and I don't see how this could be solved except for being solved on your side. That's my answer, I suppose, because we already have the rules established, and some of the due diligence is on the applicant. We will be involved heavily in the evaluation process, but this first screening has to be done by the applicant, I'm afraid. Okay, I think this question will be for you, Miguel. To what degree must the final software be developed as open source? Some challenges mention it as a requirement, some don't. Is there a general expectation on this topic?
Okay, so this topic is always problematic, the IP. As a general way to look at it, if there is nothing that is said, then basically the IP is yours. If the requirement is to open source it, then probably you just need to open source it. That doesn't mean that you need to deploy it open source. It means that the code, you need to push it somewhere that is public. For example, a GitHub or GitLab repository where it is basically public and everyone can access to it. We can see case to case about this, because maybe someone brings some data that is theirs. In that case, things change. But basically, if the requirement is open source, then you just need to push the code somewhere, maybe as a repo in GitHub, and then this should be public. That's a little bit the way I see it. That being said, even if it's not a requirement, we still need to validate the things that you did. And that means that you need to push maybe not the source code, but a solution somewhere so that can be validated. It actually meets the requirements in terms of accuracy or latency and so on and so forth. So, and also maybe some part of the test set. So you always need to provide some sort of solution that needs to be checked. And then on top of that, there might be the requirement of open sourcing the actual code that lead to that solution. And that's a little bit things that we can discuss case to case. So in case you have more doubts about your own software, we can discuss about that or about the IP. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so we have another question about the difference between resources and planning. So, hello, implementation section. Could you clarify the difference between resources and planning? The instruction for resources asks to describe use of resources, but also include the plan with the main phases. But what about the next section, planning? Shouldn't that be where to describe the plan? Yes, so I suppose in the resources, you can focus on the plan, but from the perspective of resources. So what kind of resources you will need for each stage of the project and how you will divide it into phases in general. And then in the planning, you can have more details of maybe what deliverable you expect after each stage, and so on. But if you have more, if that's still not clear, you can send us an email to the help desk. Okay. Okay. There's a question for you, Miguel. Hi, Miguel. Regarding challenge 12, could you concrete SNN available HW in VLab?
Yeah, so I don't know the specifics of that. So best thing that you send an email to the help desk, and that gets forwarded to the actual person that deals with this. I'm not even sure this will be available through the virtual lab directly. There's an expectation that that could happen. If that's not the case, the responsible person will probably grant you access directly to the hardware without the virtual lab. Hopefully, it can be through the virtual lab already, but it's not the case. It will be a different way. But about the actual concrete hardware that we have in terms of SNN, I do not know, sorry. So please send an email and you'll get the answer.
Okay. How will the 10 projects selected among the 20 different challenges? So as we said, there will be two types of ranking list. There will be one general ranking list of the highest scores after the expert evaluation. And there also will be ranking list per challenge. And the selection committee will meet and decide on the highest scoring and also those that are most aligned with the objectives of the dAIEDGE project in general. That's how it works. I don't know if I should add anything else. Miguel, do you have any thoughts on this? I suppose
more
that's,
than that, no.
yeah, that's how it works. Okay, so if we have a consortium for two persons from different countries, are they one, do you mean principal investigator, PI, and the other co-PI, any other ways? So this is not a typical academically oriented open call. So if you, approach it from more, let's say, business-like method, you can name different categories of people involved. So it doesn't, I don't know if this wording of one being PI and the other co-PI is very important, to be honest. Are public bodies without an explicit research profile, such as government mapping agency, eligible to apply? I imagine that not, because it's not mentioned on the list of eligible entities. Elaborating again on the maximum number of applications for challenge by the same institutions. I get that the first screening must be done by the institution itself. However, the application system is open, so the institutions cannot ensure that the screening is respected. Okay. Yes, I'm not sure what to reply to this. I can have a chat with the coordinator and see if maybe he has some thoughts about this. But this is the general rule that has been used in other open calls. Requiring the signature of the legal representative in the application form will ensure that the first screening performed by the institution is respected. So do you plan to require it? No, we don't plan to require it. After sending an email to the help desk, when should we expect an answer? I would say about 3 days, but if let's say if your question is complicated and we need to forward it to a technical partner, you will get an answer saying that thank you, we have received your request and we have forwarded to the technical partner. So either way, you will be looked after. And I think there was some Q&A questions, but they disappeared on me now. Okay. What happens? Okay. I think that's it. Q&A, wait, 1 second here. What happens in large centers, universities to limit applications on okay. Yeah, I think that's all. So these were answered. Okay. Okay, so hi, for the selection of the 10 successful proposals, the 10 ones with the highest scores will be considered. What happens if 2 of them are from the same challenge? Thanks. This will depend on the discussion of the selection committee. So they can decide on maybe some other parameters like maybe the use of the VLab, maybe one will be selected because they plan to use the VLab and other not, or the other way around. So really it's a matter of discussion of the selection committee, looking at the details and seeing which aligns better with the type of projects that could contribute the best to the dAIEDGE open call. Okay, what happens in large universities to limit applications more than 3 if no responsible signature is required and only declaration of honors needed? Okay, so this is what was asked before. For now, we have left this responsibility on the applicants. You still have 3 options because we could have limited to applying only once and all of the applications could not be, let's say, repeated. In many of our open calls, you are allowed to have only 1 proposal, even though you have maybe 10 great ideas. Here you have up to 3 options. And I don't know, for now, I don't have a better solution for that. If anything happens and we decide to maybe screen it some other way, find a new way to do it, you will be we will let you know through the funding box application form. You will get a message to your inbox saying that new information has been included and so on. Please review your application. So, but for now, this is the way it is. It's your responsibility, your due diligence to check how many people from your institutions are applying. And maybe you can join, forces and do something together. That's an option too. I think that's it for now. If you have further questions that are very specific to your needs, please send an email to the help desk and you will get a reply within a few days. If we need more time, we will let you know and give you, a timeline. But you have another week and a half to submit your application, and best of luck and may the best ones be selected.